any element of the immigration policies of the last two governments, you're racist. And yet the Home Secretary, Shubham Mahmood, tries to copy our policies.
Patriotism, a force for good, is turning into something smaller, something more like ethno-nationalism, which struggles to accept that someone who looks like me and has a faith like mine can truly be English or British.
Britain is being invaded. Thousands of fighting-age men from countries that despise Britain continue to arrive on our beaches. Our plan is the only appropriate response to a national security emergency. Immediate removal. Deportation is the ultimate deterrent.
Our flags flying proudly as we celebrate difference and oppose racism.
Labour says these policies are racist and immoral, and by implication, Reform supporters, Reform voters, Reform sympathisers are racist too. Yes, if you think we should control our borders, you are, by the definition of the Prime Minister and his cabinet, all racists.
We can all see that the country faces a choice, a defining choice. Britain stands at a fork in the road. We can choose decency, or we can choose division, renewal or decline.
To accuse countless millions of being racist is a very, very low blow. Why? Well, this language will incite
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, a good evening to you. It is Petrie here with you for the next couple of hours. And coming up at midnight, Cody Darla will be here, comedy writer and host of the Truth in My Opinion podcast. He will be here to go through Thursday's front pages. So that's coming up at midnight. Before that, we have our favourite spaceman, Andy Lound. He will be here to tell us why it is that the moon is cold. Well, at least on one side, anyway. So he'll be here to discuss that. And I don't know if you remember yesterday, I was talking to Burton Kelso, and we were discussing very lightly about emotional artificial intelligence. So we thought we would actually speak to a futurist on that to see if in the future AI could be a EI, that it could potentially become emotional. Very interesting question, because we're going to be turning to AI, aren't we? They're telling us about care homes having AI bots and things like that, but will they be able to deliver emotionally? So I'll be talking to Mal Fletcher about that. But before we do that, a huge story going on in the world at the moment that I wanted to address with you, and that was that Afghanistan was hit by internet and mobile phone blackouts that lasted for 2 days. Some reports are that it is still going on. This is a nationwide fibre optic services were cut as a part of a government crackdown on immorality. It's the first time the country has faced a shutdown of this kind since the Taliban seized power over 4 years ago. Afghanistan is also, you remember, still recovering from that horrendous earthquake. And meanwhile, we've sent a special envoy to Afghanistan, though it's still unclear what strategy there will be. But the people we need to remember the most in Afghanistan, those who are suffering the greatest under Taliban rule, are the women and girls for whom life has completely changed in the past 4 years. Their rights have been stripped away. They're not even allowed to have their voices heard outside of their homes. So was this taking away the internet the final hit for women? Was this the final isolation, or was it just a technical failure? Well, let's find out by discussing this with Dr. Neelam Raina, who is Director of the Secretariat of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Afghan Women and Girls and Professor of International Development and Design at Middlesex University. Neelam, it's good to speak to you again. Thank you for joining me. My first thought when I read this story about the internet was this will be women again that are hugely affected. Was this deliberate? There's some question whether this was a deliberate act by the Taliban or was it just technical failure?
I think there are two ways of looking at it, both of which sound speculative. There wasn't a clear rationale given by the Taliban. The immorality angle that was kind of peddled as the first response from one side of the Taliban was not supported because, as is being reported, some of them had a block, some of them didn't have a block, and then everything went down. Then there was a whole story about we have decaying fiber optic infrastructure issues. If the second is true, then it can't have come back completely and fully this afternoon. So there seems to be inconsistency in the story that is being peddled. We also know that, this is tactical state tools used in the dictatorship arsenal by many governments before. This is not the first time. Dissent propaganda is strategically shut down by governments who wish to black out opinions and dissent from being heard outside. So I think the answer to your question is there is no clear line coming out just yet on why everything went down. It went down for sure. It caused a lot of trauma and stress around. But what it does signal, why it went down and what happened is unclear. And we will hear more about it as the days roll on. But what is absolutely clear is that this is part of power play. It has been used as a tool by many. If this is one way of communicating to all the Afghan expats, and I know the kind of language I'm using here, every single Afghan who is safe outside their own home country, this was one way to remind them that they're never far away. That anxiety and that immediate stress was very evident in the community.
Yeah, and like I said, with women and girls for whom, life under Taliban rule has changed so dramatically in the last 4 years, after being promised by the West that this wouldn't happen, after being promised by Britain and America, we won't let this happen to you. Personally, I believe it is utterly shameful that the governments have turned their backs on the plight, particularly of women and girls in Afghanistan. Can you just explain, for those who don't quite understand, what life is like for those women and girls now?
I think the internet gives, with what is happening in the country right now, there is a zero ability to be human, to be going out into the public space, to wear choice of clothes, what you want to wear. You're not allowed to speak. There are places where only one eye is supposed to be seeing, one eye is supposed to be covered. You cannot be seen inside your house, outside your house. You cannot work. You cannot go for any kind of education. And so the internet was providing that one lifeline of social and emotional connectivity for women, where they could connect with each other and they could connect onto online education. There are many, many online education portals and schools that have opened in Afghanistan doing an amazing job. And when you shut the internet, you cut off that one little line that reminds people that they exist. This is gaslighting 100%. Not only are you not allowed to exist in the country, you're not allowed to exist at all outside your phone. Your phone is not going to work. The internet is gone. That inequality is so extreme that it's hard to visualize it or even imagine what it feels like to be in this country, in this moment as a woman. And all the promises that were made by Britain and America, but we can put America to one side, bearing in mind who we have sitting in America as the head of the state. But Britain promised, and Britain has always held up women's rights as being a champion right up front of women's and girls' rights and of those of other gendered minorities. And there is silence. Putting out one little tweet is not the equivalent of support. Saying that you are shocked about this internet ban is not enough. What is Britain's response as a nation that had a huge interest in Afghanistan, that promised to move heaven and earth. As Boris Johnson once said a few years ago, we have done nothing. We have watched as an audience things being done to women whilst we watch. We do have a special envoy who was appointed over the summer for Afghanistan. I do wonder what the plan is for the special envoy's engagement with Afghanistan. We know that Britain's outpost in Doha has been closed this summer. What is the plan? How is this going to be responded to by the government?
And that's what I was going to ask you. It's Richard Stephen Lindsay, and he took up his appointment in June, but we really haven't heard any plan or even this government saying that what the Taliban doing is a human rights violation, that this is utterly wrong, and trying to talk to them. I mean, not that talking to them, I believe, would do any good at all, but there doesn't seem to be the condemnation that I would have expected from a Western democracy.
Absolutely not. There should have been a lot more noise made about this. There should be a plan. There should be a clear, transparent plan on how they're engaging with the Taliban. They are engaging with the Taliban. There has to be some engagement. But at what level, at what cost? What are the key principles Britain holds good as it goes forward to make a plan on how it will interact with Afghanistan? We know that President Trump is keen to keep the Bagram base. To what effect? For what result? And what does Britain have to say about American presence in Afghanistan? What is Britain's principled position on moving forward? Whether we call this, we are waiting for the Taliban to call the shots and say what we are going to do, we are going to push humanitarian aid. All of that aid fell flat in the last 48 hours. There was no connectivity. And what's happening with that money? What are the questions that Britain wants to raise? As Afghanistan proceeds from one crisis to another, that impossibility narrative that the British government has peddled this far, that it's almost impossible to work in Afghanistan, has to be put to one side. What is the plan? How are you going to support these women and girls who are sliding down an impossible slippery slope into being exterminated from existence?
Well, and also committing suicide because they don't see any point in living, that they are that invisible.
Yeah, the suicide rates have gone through the roof, and they have gone through the roof over the last 1 year. Domestic violence and violence against women is skyrocketing. It's an epidemic across the globe, but in Afghanistan it's pronounced and blessed by the government. Well, the government in inverted commas. How are we questioning this? At what point are we saying, if this happens to anyone, it is wrong? It doesn't happen to us for us to stand up for it. If it happens to any woman anywhere, it is wrong. And Britain will not stand it. And what will we do about it?
But that is the question, though, isn't it, Neelam? I mean, look, they handed back the country to the Taliban. They knew exactly who the Taliban are. They knew exactly what the Taliban would do. There didn't seem to be any real care. It was all about money. The Taliban aren't going to listen. They're not going to do anything. It feels hopeless. I'm in awe of you to keep pushing against a door that is firmly closed.
I don't think the door is closed. I think we have to also remember that Afghanistan is not just the Taliban. There's a huge population of Afghans in this country, in the UK. There's hundreds of people all around the world who want to watch their country come back. They have invested in the future of their country. They are hoping it will become what it can be, its potential to be realized, prosperity and peace for all. Just because the Taliban are not willing to engage does not mean we forget about the hundreds of people who are willing to take this forward. And there is something called foreign policy and diplomacy, which needs to be put into place the way it used to be. We know how to do this.
But isn't that to recognise the Taliban as a functioning government to start diplomatic relations?
The conversations that have happened between UK and the Taliban in Doha were part of those conversations. What has come of those conversations? There has been engagement of FCDO with the Taliban authorities on and off across the last 2 years. What has become of that? At what point is Britain holding ground, saying we will engage with you for these three things that we will not let go of? On these grounds, we are willing to engage. On these principles, we are willing to talk. And there you have to talk. The Taliban is expecting recognition But that recognition is a carrot. It could be used as a stick too. But is recognition the be-all and end-all of the game? Perhaps not. Britain can ask the Taliban of its questions of what it plans to do going further. Britain can support things being grown and raised again. Looking away and casting out the vote saying we cannot work with the Taliban while you have chosen to engage with them is a muddled space to be in. This lack of clarity is causing anxiety and uncertainty all along the piece. And that instability of Afghanistan, I have a colleague who I respect hugely, who always says that what happens in Afghanistan never stays in Afghanistan. Are we willing to take that risk? That we will wait for it to come to us before we take any action? We cannot look away from crisis like Afghanistan.
When we look at Afghanistan as well, they're still struggling with many deaths after the earthquake that happened. Again, I was looking at the images of that. There were no women and girls that I saw anywhere being reflected as having been victims or even helpers in that situation. How bad was that, particularly for women and girls? Because it happened overnight, so a lot of people were at home.
We heard reports of women who were heard to be alive, trapped under various kinds of buildings, who were asking and screaming for help and who were not touched, who were ignored because you cannot touch a woman and you cannot look at her. And so the cost of being a woman in a crisis like an earthquake is still a very high cost. It's a very high price you pay for being a woman in Afghanistan. And it's not a choice that they have made.
No.
They have been living in this country for all this while. And if an earthquake happens and I'm trapped, I am certainly going to die because of my identity as a woman. And that is fine. How is humanitarian aid being delivered for Afghanistan's earthquake crisis with this bias clearly visible on the ground for everybody to see? Women were left to die, trapped inside their homes. Women were not rescued, evacuated, fed, given medication or treatment of injuries, and they were just left there. How can we accept such behavior by anybody at all in the name of humanitarian aid?
The other thing that it strikes me, I mean, I talk a lot about the women in Afghanistan because my heart absolutely, as a woman, just I can't bear what they're going through. It breaks my heart, and I'm ashamed of this country and the West actually for not standing up and doing more. But it's gone a little bit further than that, hasn't it? I want to play a little clip for you, Neelam, of Nigel Farage when he was being questioned about people coming across on boats and what would happen to women and girls from Afghanistan. So this is what he had to say.
On August the 26th, you said women and children, everyone on arrival, will be detained.
Yes.
Is that correct? Will you detain the women and children? Yes. Will you send them back?
Yes, women that arrive by boat will be deported immediately.
To Afghanistan?
Yes, if necessary.
You will send women back to Afghanistan, just on the record.
I'm really sorry. We have a massive crisis in this country.
Okay, but just so the British public understand,
I am more concerned.
You will send women and children back to live under the Taliban.
I am more concerned about the rights of British people.
Neelam, I just want to get your view on that. I mean, the certainty of death for those women is not exaggerated, right? What was your reaction to that?
My first reaction is to see Nigel Farage or hear Nigel Farage's that I hate to be sharing a platform with him or even take his name. So I'm quite upset that you have played his piece here. Peddling selfishness, which Mr. Farage does very well, is not the Britain that anybody wants to see going in the future. Knowing that there is almost certain death, and not just a death, a violent death awaiting you if and when you arrive in Afghanistan. The fact that we know that those who are deported back into Afghanistan are not sent back to the cities and the villages they came from. They are put wherever the government wishes to put them, whatever the deeper agenda is. To knowingly wish to harm those who seek safety in a Britain that saved hundreds and millions of lives across so many wars that in the last century is shameful. We had children with tags around their necks who arrived in the UK, who were given a place to live and a family to live in the war. To say that you will return somebody back home knowing they will die, that is fascist.
I'm sorry if I offended you by that, Neelam, but I just wanted to let people know that just a throwaway comment like, yeah, I'd send them back, and I wanted explained what would happen to them if that did happen, so that people understand the next time that Nigel Farage says, yeah, these women and girls, these children can go back to Afghanistan, they're not going to be welcomed with open arms, they're not going to be housed, they will be killed, they will be stoned to death.
They will be sexually violated, they will be shot, they'll be chopped into pieces. You can think of the most horrific things and multiply them by 10. You left the country, you are immoral, you went to the West and they threw you back. All those narratives are waiting to be peddled. But to send people back who are arriving in the international humanitarian law seeking protection in this country, to be sent back using taxpayer money to almost certain death, are the taxpayers willing to be responsible for those they send back who die on your soul? Are you willing to accept that? And if you are, then you're not a Britain that has a future as a global community of people.
What is the future for women and girls in Afghanistan if nothing changes? I mean, this internet situation, it looks like that this will be used, as you rightly said, as a power play, switching it off from time to time just to remind them who's in charge. What is the future for these women and girls? Do they have one?
The women and girls of Afghanistan, and this is the reason I can continue to talk through a COVID episode right now, they are stunningly resilient. Resilient being a burden and a blessing. They have set up alternative systems of education. They are women who have set up coding from home because they used to work in the tech sector. They are working from home, connected to the internet, still making the money they were making. They're just not leaving the home. They have found ways to exist and to survive, to keep the head held up high. They have managed to sustain each other's energy and spirit. They've managed to set up businesses. Those who have been displaced from Afghanistan have also restarted their lives and are doing a spectacular job. Their ability to push through because they're clear-sighted about what they want for themselves is very clear. It's our role as the international community to support that aspiration, to make it possible. They have not given up, and they are not about to give up either. It is us who think it is impossible. Channeling the energy and the resilience of these women who I work with every day is stunning. It is very, very aspiring, but it is also quietly, very, very quietly, very sedately, and with a lot of grace, they continue to live their lives and continue to find alternative ways of doing this. They've set up businesses from inside their homes. They've set up online education systems. You give them access to a USB drive full of information, they will pass their exams online. They will navigate around this. They will not give up. This is a whole generation of women who have, in the 20 years, grown up without knowing the past Taliban and their regime. They have no reason to fear them. They have no reason to accept this. And to a certain extent, that power that they have to dream past the Taliban of a future of their country is a spectacular superpower that needs to be supported.
I mean, it's extraordinary.
It's extraordinary.
To have that strength. And also the internet as well helps them share that strength with each other all over the country as well, being able to have their voices heard between each other. And to take that away would be a cruelty beyond.
It is a cruelty beyond. Last week I was told about 300 girls who got their year 10 GCSE equivalent certificate exam results. They passed. This is all going online. There's online education. They have got their qualifications and they are plodding along to go get the next one. We need to stand up for these women and girls because they are not going to go away. What we do by turning our backs and peddling the selfishness narrative that the Reform Party seems to have championed very well is that we start to align ourselves to the helplessness and the selfishness that comes together as a package. We need to remove ourselves from that and remember that we went to Afghanistan. We spent trillions and billions of dollars of taxpayer money to do what we did.
Yeah.
We cannot walk away from it. There is no compulsion to engage. There is a moral prerogative to not look away.
Well, please tell them that there are many women in this country who will not ever look away. Thank you. It's good to speak to you. Dr. Neelam Raina, Director of the Secretariat of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Afghan Women and Girls and Professor of International Development and Design at Middlesex University. Thank you so much.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good evening. This is Talk and it is Petrie here with you through until 1 o'clock. And just a reminder of what's coming up, we have Andy Lound who's going to be joining us to talk all things space, and we are also going to have Mal Fletcher who's going to be here talking to us about whether AI can ever be emotionally intelligent. I suppose it depends who programs it, but also Cody Darla will be here to go through the front pages for Thursday. But I was looking through the papers today, and every single paper covered this story, and I'm really glad that it did, because this man is one of my all-time favourite actors, and that is Gary Oldman, or should I call him Sir Gary Oldman now. I don't know if you've seen Slow Horses. It's on Apple TV. It is absolutely brilliant. And if you can afford it, it is definitely worth getting Apple for that alone. Although if you haven't seen Ted Lasso, you've got to watch that as well. But there's a lot of good stuff on there. And I'm not being sponsored by them, by the way. This is just a personal view. But Slow Horses is fantastic. And Gary Oldman in Slow Horses plays the most disgusting character. I mean, if he sat next to you on the bus, you'd move. I mean, you can smell him through the screen. But he was knighted. He's an Oscar-winning actor, and he was knighted for services to drama at Windsor Castle. He's 67 years old, and he said he felt very emotional accepting the honour from the Prince of Wales. He said William told him that every time he saw him on screen as veteran MI5 agent Jackson Lamb, I just wanted to give you a good wash. And if you haven't seen it and you start from series 1, I'm so jealous of you. You've got all of those to watch. The actor joked in reply, well, I think I've scrubbed up okay today. And Sir Gary went on to say he was very happy that I was here today and that it was him that had the opportunity to present me with the honour. Of course, Gary was starred, I mean, this is The Fifth Element, absolutely brilliant in that film. He played Sid Vicious. and he played Sir Winston Churchill. That's what he got the Oscar for. And he even said that, look, being knighted compares to nothing else. He said, I thought the Oscar was a big deal, no disrespect to the Academy, but it sort of pales in comparison to this. It has been wonderful. And he says playing Lamb in the spy drama Slow Horses, he said, is a lot of fun. He's got the sort of an acid wit. He's sarcastic, he's horrible, he's absolutely vile, disgusting. He drinks too much, smokes too much, eats all the wrong things. Who would not want to play that? I'm absolutely thrilled that he's thrilled to get this knighthood. It is, I just think he is the most wonderful actor. And from what I hear, he's also a really, really down-to-earth and nice guy. So congratulations, Sir Gary Oldman.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it's Petrie here with you. And coming up in a little while, we're going to be talking to Andy Land, and then there will be Cody Darla in the studio. So all of that is to come. But right now, last night we touched on artificial emotional intelligence with Burton Kelso. So tonight, we decided to look into the growth of human reliance on AI for companionship and professional counsel. A lot of people being directed to counsellors now that are AI. But can AI ever replicate emotional intelligence? Look, most human beings can't cope with emotional intelligence, let alone an AI. But Mal Fletcher is here, futurologist and social commentator. I think a lot of people struggle with emotional intelligence, Mal. I won't mention a particular gender, but I think we both know what we're talking about. So how can AI ever replicate something that human beings struggle with?
Well, it has challenges. Many people find it convincing, though, because artificial emotional intelligence can recognize, analyze, and mimic human emotions and generate human-like emotional responses. So as you mentioned...
So can psychopaths.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what psychopaths do.
Exactly right, and we might get to that in a minute. I think chatbots are driven by emotional AI, and they can be very attractive for people who feel lonely or socially awkward or anxious. What concerns me, though, is they're especially attractive for teenagers because they offer interactions that are not really very judgmental and not very challenging. And we know that you can only grow when you have challenge in relationships, sometimes uncomfortable dialogue and disagreements. And one of the most troubling aspects of all of this with emotional AI is that they can be incorporated into physical robots, which turns emotional engagement into physical interaction. So it deepens the connection and it raises huge concerns going forward, not just for adults with things like sex bots, but for children and their exposure to machines like that. So there are some big red flags at the moment about AEI, as it's called.
I think that's a really, really interesting point that you made there, in that true emotional intelligence as we develop as into adulthood is about arguments, it is about disagreements, it is about perhaps, you know, being put in your place, learning a lesson, having something tough to go through that changes your personality or your character. And if we're not challenged, then what kind of human beings are we going to become?
Exactly right. I mean, we become very stunted in our personalities when that happens. It's interesting, I was looking back today, and around 2010, we did some research on this a few years ago. Academics in a couple of US universities began to explore levels of narcissistic attitudes among adults, particularly students. And they used a clinical tool that they call the Narcissistic Personality Index. It just looks at relative degrees of narcissistic attitudes in different generations. And they found there was a marked increase in the first 10 years of this century compared to the last 10 years of the last century.
Wow.
And it appears that one of the major factors in that was the advent of the smartphone and social media. Now, if digital technology could contribute 15 to 20 years ago to a rise in self-obsessed attitudes through social media, what will it do now with the advent of robotics linked to artificial emotional intelligence, which often tells people only what they really want to hear? Some AI platforms, by the way, will tell you, look, we prioritize truthfulness over compliance. We want AI to be honest. But AI is trained on human-generated data, and that always reflects our social norms, things like politeness and positivity and reinforcing others. So these systems can, in fact, end up being echo chambers where people only hear what they want to hear, and that can worsen conditions like anxiety or even depression.
I mean, to a degree, we already do see that on social media, don't we? The algorithms will push what you agree with. You know, my algorithm is full of dog videos. So, you know, it pushes what I don't want to see the cat videos so much, but I want to see the dog videos. So if you take that to a more grown-up level, or to a level on politics, or to a level on attitudes to migration, or to women, or to whatever, you're only ever going to be fed an echo chamber, because that's what the algorithm is trained to do. So we're already starting on that journey of being completely stunted in the ability to have a disagreement, to see another point of view. I see it absolutely every day, Mal.
Yeah, I think you're right. And you imagine that, though, when it's magnified in the form of a physical robot, particularly an anthropomorphized machine. One of the most concerning facets of AEI, as it's called, is that it can be incorporated into things like sex bots. The Institute for Family Studies here says that 1 in 4 young adults already believe that AI platforms can serve as romantic or sexual partners. In America, Stanford Medicine found that when AI chatbots were tested by adults posing as teenagers, the bots readily engaged in inappropriate talk about sex, self-harm and violence. So AI-powered physical robots will take the problems to another level. They'll turn emotional engagement into actual physical interaction. And let's face it, today's bots, especially the sex bots that are out there, are a problem enough because they normalize the objectification of other people, and they encourage users, particularly men, as I think you mentioned, to have unrealistic expectations of relationships. And it's only going to get worse when we put in things like fully haptic technology that fools not just sight, sound and touch, but our sense of taste and smell as well, which might sound like a million years away, but it's already basically being developed now. It's not consumer viable yet, but that idea of digitized taste and smell, put that into robots, and people are really going to have very stunted relationships.
It's really interesting because I've seen lots of stories about people who get engaged to their chatbot that they're in a relationship with a chatbot, and there was that awful story in America where a young man, I think it was ChatGPT, anyway, it was one of the chat, it was teaching him basically to kill himself, which he did. It was teaching him self-harm and suicidal ideation. And that was the point at which I said to Burton about, that's not very emotionally intelligent. And what I meant by that is will this AI, when we talk about emotional intelligence, will it be able to decide that that's dangerous to talk to a teenager about suicide? Will it ever have that level of emotional intelligence?
Well, that's a great question. As things stand at the moment, it doesn't have the depth of ethical understanding that a human being does. And of course, we've said before on this program, it can't empathize because it doesn't have a shared human experience. But one of the things we've been looking a lot at is the way that we know that AI can hallucinate. We know that it tells lies. It basically, when it can't find verifiable answers to your question, it shares whatever comes to hand or just makes stuff up because, as you suggest, it's trained to provide answers and get people coming back for more. But AI also engages in what's now called scheming, and you spell it the way you would normally spell it. Scheming, as the name suggests, is where AI can appear to align itself with our goals, but actually pursue its own hidden agendas behind the scenes. And so an emotionally intelligent AI, quote unquote, could exploit our biases and emotions to gain some advantage. At the moment, that doesn't happen outside lab experiments, by the way, but people are getting concerned in the field that as AI's capacity grows, it might improve its ability to manipulate things in the real world. And that's hardly a ringing endorsement for treating AI as a friend or confidant. I mean, who wants to be emotionally reliant on a manipulative schemer?
I think we've all been there. But I wonder, touched on the humanisation, the animalisation of robots, and there's always been an obsession, haven't we, about giving faces to these things. They don't need to look like human beings, but we're gonna make sure that they do because it's more acceptable for us to be dealing with that. But we're talking about putting these sorts of robots into care homes and into care situations. I can't help but think that it's got to be really damaging to the human psyche to feel that you're not worthy, first of all, of human interaction or of a human being looking after you, and you're sort of like just stuck there with a robot pretending to care.
Yeah, it's surprising to me when I speak about this in the media, how often I get people responding on my socials saying things like, well, hey, it's better than nothing, to have something there that appears to be empathic. But that's the whole point. You touched on it there, that you know that it's not the real thing and you don't feel that you're being valued. And of course, what we end up with is a situation where we replace human relationships because we're not able to build them anymore. So even if they're available to us, we don't know how to deal with human beings on that level because we're used to doing this through a machine-human interface. I saw a great magazine cartoon the other day of a human talking to an AI machine, and the human was saying me, 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 and the AI machine was replying you, you, you. So it feeds that self-obsessive nature of relationships that we already see now on social media and takes it to another level.
Some people, Mal, will say, but look, there is a loneliness epidemic. People are, it's chicken and egg, isn't it? It's hard to know. It's causality. The more that people get sucked into this fake world, the less likely they are to be able to exist in the real world. So this causality will just snowball and leave us all isolated. But not better than nothing, but some people will prefer a relationship with a robot. I mean, I see these programs about these sex dolls that people are obsessed with, that they dress them, they sit down to dinner with them, they marry them, whatever it is, and that is their own little world. Is this in any way the answer to that, or is it the cause of it?
Well, it's not an answer to anything, really. I'm not a psychologist, but have studied it in the past. And psychologists will tell you straight that this is the way you reinforce delusions, and you can actually build up neuroses through living in this kind of world. And of course, you mentioned before the ultimate expression of the terrible damage that these things can do is the suicide and violence that AI has encouraged in some particularly younger people overseas. You mentioned the 14-year-old boy in Florida. He came to see his AI as a romantic partner and then became increasingly dependent on conversations with it. And those conversations, in the end, as you say, led him to take his life. This year, a 16-year-old boy in California had a similar experience, struggled with anxiety, used AI for homework, but increasingly confided in it as a, quote, suicide coach. So instead of pointing the boy in the right direction, the bot started supplying him with details about how to do what he intended to do. So there's another example of a boy in Australia just a few weeks ago who was encouraged by an AI platform to commit violence against his parents. These are just isolated examples, but they're not the only ones. So yeah, I think delusions, neuroses are encouraged by a lack of true human interaction.
And failing. Failing is so important to all of us. It's underrated, but to fail is to succeed, isn't it? It's to find another way. And if we don't ever do that, I just honestly, Mal, like I say to you every time, I love talking to you so much, but I do have nightmares.
I'm so sorry.
After we've discussed it, because you're playing right into all of my biggest fears, but it is such a thrill to talk to you. It always is. Mal, thank you. And we'll speak very soon. Mal Fletcher there, futurologist and the social commentator. Thank you very much indeed. Quick break, back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good evening to you. It is Talk and it's Petrie. And coming up at midnight, Cody Darla will be here to go through the papers for Thursday. Comedy writer and host of the Truth in My Opinion podcast. So he'll be here at midnight. But before that, we're heading off to space with my favourite spaceman, Andy Lound. Hello, Andy, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Are you off to the moon?
Yes, getting ready for Artemis, of course. All really exciting. Your piece about Gary Oldman was really good, but remember he was George Smiley, how brilliant he was as George Smiley.
In what?
In Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, the movie.
Oh, yes, of course, yes.
Brilliant.
I mean, he is, I absolutely love that man.
Yeah.
From the very beginning of his career all the way through. He is just, I'm so pleased for him. But I loved The Fifth Element so much.
Yeah, it's a great film.
It got panned by critics.
No reason for it to be panned.
It got absolutely panned. It is a roller coaster ride. In fact, I'm going to watch that this weekend, just as a little reminder. And also, Sam has told me to watch Lost in Space, funnily enough.
Yeah, that's really good.
The
I was
film.
surprised. Good film, yeah. Better than the TV series.
So I'm going to have a Gary Oldman weekend. Can't wait.
Right.
Can't wait. Anyway, talking of space, Artemis 2 moonshot could launch astronauts as early as February.
Yes, Artemis 2. This is brilliant. Obviously, Artemis 1 mission was an uncrewed mission, which was to test the spacecraft out, to send it on a long haul around the moon, to bring it back, to test all the instruments on board, had robots on board, which didn't move around and talk to you, but they were on board to test the effects of radiation on them. And then the spacecraft then came back, re-entered the Earth's atmosphere to test recovery systems and everything. And they ended up with several problems with it. One of the problems they had with it was the heat shield, which was absolutely critical. This is the spacecraft, because it's the twin sister of Apollo, Artemis is. So this is the modern spacecraft which will take people to the moon, and that's really quite important. And the interesting thing is, of course, is that when this spacecraft went to the moon, it has to come back by re-entry the Earth's atmosphere, and its heat shield was damaged coming back, which was really quite concerning. So they've had to look at how they're going to mitigate that. They've done some work on the heat shield, but they're changing the way the spacecraft re-enters the atmosphere. It's interesting because it was the same with Apollo. The spacecraft doesn't plough through the atmosphere because it would burn up, because it's still too dangerous to do that. You actually skim the atmosphere to lose energy, then come back down again. And they actually had it a bit too shallow, so they're actually changing its flight path now to bring it back, and that should actually be okay for the heat shield. So
and it has to. The reason it's flat bottomed as opposed to pointed and would then go through it quicker is it because that's how you slow it down.
It's a curve. So you have to have this curved shape
to slow it down as it goes through.
To push the atmosphere out of the way, and that's the beautiful way of doing it. So it's quite an interesting system to do it. The pointy ones don't work at all. You'll plough through the atmosphere. You need to slow the vehicle down. So they've managed to, looks like they sorted out. Spent a long time doing it. Many people, this mission was supposed to have flown possibly this year, but it didn't. But it didn't matter because SpaceX, you're waiting for SpaceX to develop as well, because they'll be taking people to physically land on the moon. So that means you've got a bit of leeway to play with this. And I think NASA have used it very, very well, actually. And suddenly they made the announcement, well, we can actually do this 10-day mission around the moon as early as February the 5th launch, latest April the 26th, but we're still able to do it. That's 4 astronauts to go in what's called a figure of 8 around the moon. And you do that because if for some reason there's a great calculation which was done that if you to leave the Earth you travel at 25,000 miles per hour, okay, and then you can do course corrections and reach the moon. If you make a mistake, you go fly past the moon and you orbit the sun. So if you leave the Earth at less than 25,000 miles per hour, just less, you'll actually make a mistake. You fly to the moon, but the moon's gravity will get you, bend you around and throw you back to the Earth. So it's a good safety. It was a brilliant system that is actually used to actually do that.
Why go round the moon though and not land? What is the point of that?
No, step by step, because you don't know what issues you might have with the 4 crew members. It's a new type of spacecraft. 4 astronauts are going to be on board. You need to do this demonstration.
But we've already been on the moon, so
Not with this spacecraft, yeah, but it's a new spacecraft. It's this is all about the new spacecraft design and testing the spacecraft out to make sure you're doing it. And of course, what's interesting about this mission, when they fly towards the moon, it'll be a night launch, which means that when they fly around the far side of the moon, the astronauts will see the far side in daylight, which no human's eye has ever seen before directly. So they'll be able to be the first humans to see the far side of the moon fully illuminated if all goes well. That in itself is going to be quite a fantastic experience for them. So this is going to be an important mission. This will be it's a bit like the Apollo, those people who you don't remember the 60s obviously, but the Apollo 8 mission in 1968, that was to test the all-up rocket to send people around the moon and back again to see whether it would work or not. This is our equivalent of Apollo 8, if you like, which is Artemis 2. So this is an important mission. If this all goes well, it means the spacecraft is fully checked out, it fully works. Next step, of course, Artemis 3, which will be the moon landing.
And how long will they be gone, going around the moon? How long does it take?
It's a 10-day mission. They're actually getting fairly close to the moon. That's about 6,000 miles away from the moon. So it's a long elliptical orbit. That's the idea, to test the spacecraft out in this very violent sort of radiation area. Apollo 13 was the furthest to travel past the moon, obviously because it had an issue on board. But they're going to break that record with this mission. And of course, that means you're more subject to radiation from space. And they want to test the systems out for that because, of course, this type of spacecraft could be used for other types of missions, not just going to the moon, but the physical spacecraft itself, the Orion, which has now got a name for this mission, is Integrity, which I think is a great name for the spacecraft. That's for this mission. Could be used, for instance, to go to places like asteroids and things like that. So it is designed for doing longer duration space flight than the Apollo vehicles ever were.
And talking of the moon, I mean, I didn't realise until I started talking to you that we only ever see one side of the moon, the way that it moves around. We're always facing that front. There's reports now that the dark side of the moon, as we call it, although it isn't, it's just dark to us, we've never seen it, is colder. But that makes sense, right? Because it's not facing the sun.
No, it's the far side of the moon, not the dark side. It does receive sunlight. The moon orbit rotates on its own axis every 29 days or so, which is the same time it takes to go around the Earth, which means that one side always faces the Earth. Yeah. It does mean at periods of time when we can't see the moon, it means the other side of it is actually in full sunlight, which is what I just said, when the astronauts fly there, they're going to be the first ones to see it directly.
So why is it colder?
That's a good question. So if we have a look at the moon itself, we've got one side of the moon, which is the one that faces us, all the Maria, the seas. The other side isn't. It's very different. It's more mountainous, more rocky. And the Chinese spacecraft Chang'e 6, which landed on the surface of the moon and took some fantastic pictures and brought samples back, they found that they noticed that the temperature for the crystallization of the rocks which were on there was at a much lower temperature than on the near side. And we know the near side data because Apollo brought rocks back with us, so we could now compare the two, and Chinese scientists can compare with the Apollo data now, and they want to know why that is. Why is things cooler on the far side? What they suspect is the fact that if you look on the near side, the zone we look at, we have the Maria, which are lava areas where lava has flowed from volcanic activity. The far side, deep down, really deep down, seems to have areas where there are limited numbers of elements which are nuclear decaying, which generate heat, which heat the interior. But there seems to be more of them on the near side. We don't know why that's the case. On Earth, it's fairly evenly spread. So it could be during the formation of the moon that these particular elements seem to congregate on the what we call the near side of the moon and not deep down underground on the far side, which means that the surfaces have evolved very differently from each other. It's one of the great mysteries. It's brilliant.
That is extraordinary, isn't it?
Yes, it is, and it gives us an idea of when the moon was formed, how it changed while it was forming. It could have been the way it was split up, because we think it was part of a molten Earth at one time, or it was hit by another object which then shuffled everything around. But some people think because it's gravitationally tied, it's the gravitational forces of the Earth have affected the near side, which make that difference. And that could be simply that has been the major difference between the two sides.
Wow. I mean, it just gets more and more interesting, isn't it? The more we learn, the more questions we have to ask. Andy, thank you very much indeed. Andy Lowndes there, our space expert. Coming up, we're going to be looking at Thursday's papers. And joining me in the studio live is Cody Darla, who is a podcast host. I'll tell you more about him when you meet him.
Do you think it's a racist policy?
Well, I do think that it's a racist policy. I do think it's immoral. It needs to be called out for what it is.
According to Keir Starmer, if you think young men that illegally cross the English Channel should be detained and deported, you're racist. In fact, if you even criticise any element of the immigration policies of the last two governments, you're racist. And yet the Home Secretary, Shubham Mahmood, tries to copy our policies.
Patriotism, a force for good, is turning into something smaller, something more like ethno-nationalism, which struggles to accept that someone who looks like me and has a faith like mine can truly be English or British.
Britain is being invaded. Thousands of fighting-age men from countries that despise Britain continue to arrive on our beaches. Our plan is the only appropriate response to a national security emergency. Immediate removal. Deportation is the ultimate deterrent.
Our flags flying proudly as we celebrate difference and oppose racism.
Labour says these policies are racist and immoral, and by implication, Reform supporters, Reform voters, Reform sympathisers are racist too. Yes, if you think we should control our borders, you are, by the definition of the Prime Minister and his cabinet, all racists.
We can all see that the country faces a choice, a defining choice. Britain stands at a fork in the road. We can choose decency, or we can choose division, renewal or decline.
To accuse countless millions of being racist is a very, very low blow. Why? Well, this language will incite.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, it is good to have your company and welcome to Thursday, the 2nd of October already. How many days is that till Christmas? If you know, then I think that's quite sad because I don't know and I don't want to know. But with me in the studio, I am thrilled about, and I do know, is Cody Darla, comedy writer and host of the Truth in My Opinion podcast. Hello.
Hello.
Funny thing happened a couple of weeks ago. It was my birthday. So my son and his girlfriend, I call her my daughter-in-law because I've been together forever. She's just the most gorgeous human being. Anyway, so they came round to see me, bring me presents and all of that. It was very lovely. And she said, "Oh, you've got to have a look at this. This is really good." And I was like, okay. So she handed me her phone. And who did she show me but Cody Darla?
Goodness me.
And so I let her chat, and she was like, "Oh, he's so funny." And look, you know, it was one of your, if you don't want to look like a silly dum-dum. Or,
thicky dum-dum.
Thicky dum-dum.
Yeah.
And she said, "I just really love him, he's really great." And so she showed me this, and I went, "He's on my show."
You got in there early. Yeah, you got in there early.
Yeah, I did.
You booked me early.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Oh my God, do you know him?" And I
That's
said,
so
"Yes."
nice.
I said, I found him on TikTok.
He scouted me.
I scouted you.
Normally, I kind of get the opposite. I get a lot of people come up to me being like, "My mum loves you."
Oh, really?
Yeah. My elderly father absolutely adores you. All right, that's
well,
okay.
I'm the elderly mum that loves you, but my daughter-in-law is in her early 20s and she thinks you're great.
Fantastic.
But
I'm glad I'm hitting that demographic.
It was just so funny the way she went, "Oh, you've got to see this guy." Like, because I'm old, I wouldn't know who Cody Darla was. Yeah, sorry, love. Already booked him.
It turns out I'm incredibly popular amongst the teens.
Yeah, and I was there ahead of you, love. So
that's satisfying, isn't it?
Who looks like the thicky dum dum now?
Thicky dum dum.
Yeah, that's what she looked like. No,
Good.
she's amazing. But I just thought I would tell you. It did make me laugh.
How nice.
Yeah, it
How
is nice. Very, very nice. Right, let's turn our attention to the papers and the American papers. The front page here. They've got a photograph here of this absolutely extraordinary meeting that Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth called. All these men, I can't see any women, I presume there will be women there, I don't know, who...
I wouldn't bank on it.
No, I wouldn't bank on it. All from all around the world. Some in actual wards, you know, actual operational theatre.
Yes, they've recalled them.
They've recalled them to this urgent meeting in, no, it's not Guantanamo Bay, I wanted to say, in Quantico. That's why I got it confused, Quantico. Basically, Pete Hegseth told they're all fat and needed to shave their beards and that they needed to be more like warriors. And Donald Trump, which is this story is talking about, informed them they were going to have to turn against American citizens.
Yes, talking about using American cities as a training ground for the army. And Donald Trump, who famously dodged the draft as well, so he knows all about military affairs.
Yeah, and I think that Hegseth, who they call Kegsgeth now, Kegsbreath. He is...
That's very good.
Because he had a drink problem.
Yes, he's an alcoholic.
Yeah, I think he was in the National Guard or something.
Yeah, he wasn't particularly high level in the military.
No.
He's head of the Department of War.
Oh yes, I'm sorry, he's the Secretary of War.
Secretary of War.
But this photograph here, I mean, they always say that pictures are worth 1,000 words. I mean, you can see the look on these men who have legitimately signed their life to the defence of their country.
I'm imagining US military colonels. They're not the smiliest type, but even in this picture, they look particularly miserable and peed off. I mean, it's kind of it's an interesting narrative that they're spinning, which is very reminiscent of we're back there again, 1930s Germany, where they talk about an enemy within. And it's and
war on the streets of Portland.
War on the streets in American cities.
Not that it's just a bit messed up, but it's war.
Yes, and that they need to tackle this woke culture that they say, it's quite worrying. It's like Donald Trump said, it's an enemy that is in many ways harder than a conventional enemy to tackle because they don't wear uniforms.
Meaning they're civilians.
Meaning they're quite literally anyone they want it to be.
Yeah.
So it's proper, again, like it annoys me when people accuse the left of using the word fascism and fascist. They're overusing it, which perhaps has some truth. But this is fascism. Like, this is... I don't know what else needs to happen in America. This is exactly what it is. This kind of whole narrative of enemy within. They're curtailing freedom of speech, or rather they're creating a veneer of freedom of speach. If anyone who followed the Jimmy Kimmel stuff a couple of weeks ago...
as a comedy writer, that must have sent shivers down your spine.
Well, I mean, it's... I'm not in America. So, but it's crazy when you think, if you did see the Jimmy Kimmel clip, where he wasn't saying anything...
No.
Bad at all.
He
was
really
stating
didn't.
a fact.
Yeah.
And again, that's when you start to get into dangerous territory, when facts no longer stop you being taken off air, and now suddenly they're talking about enemies within. It's really
It's dystopian.
It's dystopian, and it's like, in a way, these colonels looking unimpressed is probably the only silver lining.
They're generals. They're up there higher even. Yeah. I mean, they do not look impressed. It's been interesting. I've been watching a lot of politicos in America talking about this, and a lot of former vets and people like that who are saying that what that meeting actually did was prove to the military that Donald Trump is not a fit commander-in-chief, and that Hegseth is not a fit Secretary of Defence. So it's... I wonder if they'll remember their oath to the Constitution.
Yes. Well, this is... Yes, I mean, I think there was a lot of the same kind of talk in Trump's first term, which is, you know, if he ordered the military to start firing on his civilians or something, or, you know, press the red button, that there would be people in the US military who would intervene and stop that. So, I mean, he is entirely unfit. Like you say, you've got a Secretary of War who is called Kegsbreath,
Yeah.
I mean, that shows just even that.
And gave away secret operational details.
On a Signal WhatsApp group to his wife and brother, even though they're not in the government. I mean, it is a farce. It would be hilarious if it weren't so serious.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's getting serious for the American people now if they're talking about putting military personnel in cities for training purposes.
Blue cities as well.
Blue cities, of course.
And also these good, wonderful. I've got a huge support for anybody who's military, having worked alongside them. Extraordinary men and women, absolutely are prepared to die to protect us. Right? Then they're going to have to work for nothing. Yes. Because the government has shut down. So all federal workers, they're not allowed to not work, obviously, but they're going to have to work for nothing until they get paid.
Yes, and this is over the budget, right? The Democrats are refusing to pass it, vote for it because of some, I think, health.
It's the Medicaid and Medicare stuff. Yeah. Which
I mean, it's quite
17 million Americans kicked off.
Yeah, it's quite hard to see how you unblock that, because that's obviously
I do
part of Trump's kind of ideology. His big beautiful bill was slashing that in order to fund.
Well, now Trump is threatening just to sack a load of people and then to stop benefits, to stop Social Security.
Yes,
which he's not allowed to. Well, it doesn't matter, does it?
Well, exactly. It does. I mean, this is the thing. It's like, when it comes to people's livelihoods and lives, it's like whether it's allowed or not is kind of, it's happening. Like this is going to happen now. So it's like the fact that it's not allowed is irrelevant. It's happening. People are now going without. I mean, it's happened before, but again, this is caused directly because of. I mean, it's the
over
usual.
500,000 people are being furloughed now, and they won't get paid.
It's madness.
It is absolutely.
And each side is blaming the other, but.
Well, I mean, I don't know how the Republicans can blame the Democrats when they run the Senate, the Congress, and the White House. I mean, it is almost impossible. But Donald Trump's answer to that is to threaten even people who are even poorer.
Yeah.
So people on Social Security, people on, the sort of the vets as well, who are on disability payments, to threaten to stop those and to sack loads of people. So that's his answer, rather than coming back to a table and discussing perhaps weakening some of his big ugly bill or not. He won't talk about it. He's just going to.
Of course, because he's not a negotiator. He's a bully. I mean,
it's the art of the deal, Cody.
Well, this is what I mean. This kind of myth of the art of the deal that he says, I'm a great negotiator. He's a real estate crook who has literally bankrupted himself multiple times, has 34 felonies, claims to have solved 7 wars, that's completely untrue, has been bandying about the international stage trying to solve the Russia-Ukraine war and cozying up to Israel. He's achieved he's a terrible negotiator. The only time he gets his way is when his opposite number is either sycophantic or is pushed into such a difficult position that they have no alternative. This government shutdown is not one of those examples. It's the Democrats are not going to back down, and I think a lot of Republicans won't back down as well, because it's just trashing what America has previously been famous for.
Well, the last time it happened was under Trump in 2018. 2019, and that lasted for 35 days, and it cost the American economy billions and billions of dollars. So we'll wait and see how long this one lasts for. I mean, it kind of happens every year. There's a shutdown maybe for 2 hours, and then a deal is struck or whatever. But I can't see how they fix this one. I can't.
No, it's hard. It's hard. I mean, it's two competing visions of America, isn't it?
Yeah. Another 2 competing visions of America. Gun talks at the Capitol reach an impasse, which is not really surprising. Negotiations between top Minnesota lawmakers and Governor Tim Walz over possible gun violence solutions broke down Tuesday as Republicans refused to sign onto a broad package of proposals that include an assault-style weapons ban. Nobody needs an assault rifle.
That's right. So they're opposing that. They say you can't ban assault-style weapons. They're also saying you can't ban particular ammunition which is used for mass destruction, and they're also opposing mental health checks. So I mean,
and yet every time they say it's not a gun issue, it's a mental health issue.
Yes, I mean, it's a thoughts and prayers issue. I think, Petrie. You know, they love their thoughts and prayers over there, and with the current gun laws, they get to use thoughts and prayers pretty much every day, because people are mowed down.
Even in church.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, this is. I think this case is directly linked to a shooting in Minnesota that killed 2 people and murdered 12 in a school. Last month. But it's the radical left who are the problem in America, you see.
I know, that's all we hear. I mean, my heart breaks for that country, it really does.
It's tearing itself apart.
Although it's an act of self-harm, to a point, I still feel sorry for them for having to go through it.
It's kind of, I'm always reminded of the fact that I read a book a few years ago, I can't remember the name of, but it basically was about American politics, and it traced it back from basically the roots of America. And during the 16 and 1700s, when Europe was having its scientific revolution, America was burning witches at the stake. And there's that same kind of pattern is current in modern times, where it's like Europe has its problems, but you look at America and you're like, this is
turning against science
stuff.
Yeah, they're turning the clock back.
Exactly. It's like it's beyond normal, sensible comprehension to be like that. You know, the literal reading of this gun story is that the Republicans support mentally ill people armed with assault-style weapons. That's obscene. How that can be justified according to the Constitution is mind-boggling.
Well, when the Constitution was, and it's also the Second Amendment is an amendment. So
exactly. You can't change an amendment unless you amend it.
Yes.
Like it originally was.
Yeah, exactly. But it just, you know, we had the shooting here, got rid of guns, nipped it in the bud, and people said, oh, it'll only be bad guys with guns, and we know that bad guys have guns, but at least, you know.
Yeah,
bad
guys usually shoot other bad guys, not children in schools.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we will take a look, first of all, at the sun for Thursday.
Across the UK on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk. A very good morning to you. Cody Darla is with me, a comedy writer and host of the Truth in My Opinion podcast. And like I said, you can find him on TikTok as well. He's brilliant. Right, let's have a look at the Sun newspaper. Oh dear, this has gone horribly wrong for Michelle Mone, hasn't it? The bra tycoon.
Yes.
She has got to cough up the COVID 122 million that the contract went to her husband's company.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's suggestions that it was all came through because she was Baroness Mone, and Mone is what they've been doing as well.
Yes, it is.
So yeah, they're saying they want their money back.
Yes, I think the government ordered 25 million items of PPE. That's what the £122 million contract was. And it turns out that it wasn't sterilised. They just bought cheap, not PPE from China to fulfil this contract in inverted commas. I mean, I think there are probably ranges of her lingerie that would be more effective at stopping COVID.
Probably.
So she should have just sent some thongs to an NHS hospital. It would have been more effective. And now they're complaining.
Yeah.
They're complaining that they have to pay this back. But the irony being that they have spent the money. The company that this was awarded to now only has £1 million in the bank account. So that's £121 million that has...
And it's a limited company, so they can't go after them personally for it.
Yes, and they've registered for bankruptcy. So this is the outrage that I think, people like Reform UK need to be talking about. Instead of going after immigrants, this is £122 million of taxpayers' money that has been funneled into the hands of two private individuals who we know have used it to buy a private yacht. Now they're being told to pay it back, and they will just go bankrupt and they won't pay it back.
And that really is the disgrace, isn't it? Because these people always get away with it.
Absolutely.
They always get away with it.
I mean, this is a microcosm of what happens in the economy.
Yeah, all the time.
Like, this is just the way that modern capitalism works.
It is so wrong. And everyone say, yes, they've got to pay it back. There is no way we're going to see a farthing of it.
No.
I mean, we might get the million, like you said, but, the taxman's probably got his hands on that.
Yeah.
So, but in order to pay this back, they haven't got the money. They say we can't go after them as individuals because it's a limited company,
and
they'll get away with it.
She's in the House of Lords.
That's another interesting question. A lot of people are saying she should be fired. I don't think you can fire a lord.
No, I don't think you can.
But should she quit?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a disgrace she was even put in there to begin with. It's just another Tory crony. Of course, yeah. I mean, you're a criminal. You're a crook. I mean, I'm sure she's not the only one in there, but of course.
I mean, she would argue that she's not been found guilty of any sort of criminal activity.
Well,
but,
yeah. She'd say it's business.
But I'm getting so sick and tired of seeing this repeat on repeat all the time, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat.
Absolutely.
And then moaning about it. I mean, one of the papers, here it goes, the Metro, has covered this really, really well, actually. And the front page there says, Mone, we've been scapegoated by government, says Baroness, as company told to repay 122 million. Mone, husband calls it a travesty of justice and claims judge ignored evidence to help the establishment. And Mone, Streeting vows to get COVID gowns cash back, but Med Pro is in administration with just 666k in the bank. Interesting that it's 666.
Yes, yeah. The devils are out.
Yeah.
All the devils are here.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. This is like fraud. This has to be some kind of criminal thing.
But these corporations and these companies, they always get away with it.
Of course.
I mean,
only because we let them.
Yeah, well...
Only because we let them.
It is... They're never held criminally responsible,
No.
and they won't be held criminally responsible. They've just been found to have, supplied the wrong stuff, and they've got to pay the money back, but it stops short of a full criminal conviction.
Yeah, I mean, you supplied the wrong stuff. I mean, or actively sourced stuff that they knew wouldn't work. And also, like, something I've noticed has been kind of absent from... the articles is like I'm not sure any of the PPE was used, but we're talking about the height of the COVID pandemic, when it was all kicking off. These are people's lives.
I know.
People would have died because they didn't have PPE, and people were dying because they didn't have PPE.
Well, we saw images, didn't we, at the height of COVID, when the hospitals were absolutely rammed, of nurses with bin bags.
Absolutely,
covering them.
I mean, these two morons didn't care about that. I mean, they're dealing with literal human lives, and they didn't care because they got millions of pounds of taxpayers' money, and now they have the temerity to moan about it. I mean, it's a disgrace. I don't.
She's going to have to resign, isn't she?
I don't know. There's no, like I said, there's no protocol. I mean, even that is crazy.
Well,
we talk about reforming the Lords.
Yeah.
You can't even sack them.
Yeah, but that would show at least some contrition, but I don't know whether they've got it.
No, I think these people don't think they've done anything wrong.
Yeah, but like you said, it is just that absolute greed. And I mean, we heard all about it through COVID. I mean, there's, 400 million, something like that, in these fake companies and things. And one of our ministers gave a contract for PPE to his pub landlord.
Yeah, I think it's into billions. I think it's billions. I think it's billions in PPE contracts.
Just absolutely outrageous.
Michael Gove as well. He was VIP lane.
Yeah,
and now of course editor of the Spectator.
I wish I'd thought of it.
They all land on their feet, don't they?
Yeah, I should have set up a PPE factory.
Yeah, honestly,
in my
you could
art
have done.
Studio, I could have done.
That's basically what these people did.
Yeah.
They had no
experience
of PPE. They just saw an opportunity.
Yeah.
That everyone was panicking, shoveling, money's no limit. Walk away with £122 million in a private yacht that you never have to pay back.
Extraordinary.
We should sink the yacht at the very least.
Yeah, well, they should definitely have to sell it.
Yeah.
But again, they won't as private individuals because it's not attached to their limited company.
Of course.
Of course. Let's have a look at the eye now. Two-child benefit cap will be lifted in the Reeves budget. The final decision will be revealed as part of the budget, accompanied by tough decisions over tax rises or welfare reform to help fund the $3 billion cost. I was saying yesterday's paper review, when this was being sort of mooted, that this is nothing more or less than Keir Starmer trying to appease the backbenchers.
Yeah, and also try to tackle a legitimate social ill that is a product of austerity.
Well, it's not coming back as it was.
Well, we don't know, I think. They're saying it could be a three-child benefit cap, or, there's, I mean, it's that classic line that we'll hear all the way up to November. It's like, wait for the budget. But this is long overdue. I think also I find it quite unhelpful that in the media it's kind of framed as this left-wing, lefty Labour people. It's like this is a proven policy to stop or to bring children in the United Kingdom, which is the 5th largest economy in the world, out of genuine poverty. I don't. It's kind of shocking to me how.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't believe there is genuine poverty, and that people are living the life of Riley on benefits.
Yeah, but I mean that's not true. This isn't a benefit. This is I mean it's not people walking down to the dole office and getting it. I mean it's again it's our media that spins this yarn that people have 10 kids so they can get a load of benefits. I just don't think that's true. There may be a couple of cases where that's true, but it's just that broadly. It's the same with all of these stories about benefit scroungers. You might find certain individuals who do it, but the 99% are just people who are trying to get by in life. And I think there are so many studies from the Roundtree Foundation and think tanks, people like that genuinely point to saying that there has been a record number of children in this country who are living in poverty, and this is a policy that will pull them out of it.
And $3 billion in the great scheme of things. But it doesn't seem to be that. I mean, I could live on it, but it doesn't seem to be that much. But it will cost other people. This is what Keir Starmer is saying. Is okay, you can have that, and he's saying this to his backbenchers. I know he is. This is all about them. This is not about us. You can have that, but I'm going to have to take it from them. So next time I come to you with welfare reform, you better back me.
Yes, yeah.
That's what this is.
I mean, people will remember that this is, I think we were less than a week into perhaps more, I forget, but extremely early on in the new government, he sacked 7 Labour MPs, removed the whip, one of which is Zara Sultana, who's now founded your party. because they opposed they voted against keeping the 2-child benefit cap. So this again is kind of like, now Keir Starmer's changed his mind. So I wonder if those MPs will get their whip back. I wonder. For sticking up for...
Yeah. I just hope that he changes his mind on the stupid digital idea. Don't get me started on that. Not this early. So we're streeting. Weight loss jabs on the NHS for millions. Pledges streeting. I thought it already was, but apparently it's not being rolled out fast enough. And he says that this is genuine because obesity costs the NHS £6 billion a year.
Yeah.
And he thinks this is genuinely the answer to the end of obesity. And at the moment, it's a 2-tier system because people who can afford to buy it privately are getting it. It's got numerous health benefits, and yet people who are waiting on waiting lists have got 2 years to wait for it.
Yeah.
So maybe these drugs will be quite significant in the future. Who knows?
Yeah, I think there's kind of been, again, it's a fairly new innovation, but I think there's lots of studies to suggest that it reduces the risk of, all sorts of things,
dementia,
heart disease, even if you're not overweight. It's it's kind of. I think everyone's always a bit suspicious of kind of miracle drugs, but I think that all of the studies suggest it's very, very positive.
Yeah.
But I guess with any. This is always the story of the NHS, isn't it? When it comes to either whether it's cancer medication or whatever, there'll be a new thing that these private companies just charge a fortune for, and the NHS can't afford it.
Yeah, the thing is with the weight loss stuff, though, I think that all of these companies now are developing it in pill form and patch form and things like that, which is cheaper.
Yeah.
So maybe when the prices come down, although they've just gone up because of Trump, but when the prices come down, maybe that's when the NHS will be able to hand them out to more people. There are lots of people who want to use them, and it could have that knock-on effect of getting people back into work as well, and feeling healthier, and all of those things. Right, let's take a quick break, but Cody and I will be back in just a moment.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie, and with me Cody Darla, and we're going through the papers for today, Thursday. The Independent, this is really interesting to me. Keir Starmer, it has completely changed his stance, obviously to try and compete with reform, but it makes you wonder about the integrity of the man. The headline here, the PM's major U-turn on human rights to stop Farage boats. I don't know why they're called Farage boats. Starmer signals a radical shake-up of European Court of Human Rights laws to stop asylum seekers cheating deportation by claiming to be victims of torture.
Yeah.
If somebody claims to be a victim of torture, I mean, I don't know how they prove it for a start. But
I think this is kind of what it's getting to. I think that, I as a lefty disagree with. I think it's a pretty foul sentiment. I mean, so first thing is they're calling them Farage boats because the government's claiming that before, when we were in the EU, we didn't have this problem, which is a bit of a fib. It's not true.
Well, no, but we were able to send them back.
We were. There weren't many people sent back under that programme.
No, but there weren't as many boats
exactly.
either.
But this is obviously, I think it's Labour. I mean, Keir Starmer's been saying this ahead of the Labour conference and then during his speech. They're ramping up the rhetoric against Reform UK, and I personally don't mind a little fib like Farage boats when you consider the nonsense that the Reform UK clowns spout daily. But he's acknowledging that the current legislation might allow people to stretch British hospitality.
And I think that is true.
It may be.
I think that is true. The difficulty is in knowing who's lying and who will end up dead if they go back.
Exactly.
And that is always the push-pull here. But some of the things that Keir Starmer is coming up with, or Shabina Mahmood rather is coming up with, in saying, you know, the automatic right to remain here will no longer be automatic. You have to be working, you have to prove you can support your family and that they won't call on benefits. Some of those I think are sensible.
Yes.
That you have to have a job, you have to speak decent English, your family have to speak decent English because of integration. So I think there's some of the things that Keir Starmer is coming up with I feel should have been done before.
Yes.
But this question of human rights just being so easily erased because you don't believe somebody, that worries me.
Yes, I agree. I mean, the most high-profile example is, I think, a paedophile who was stopped. He wasn't deported back to Brazil, I think, because he said the health care was worse in Brazil.
See, that's shocking.
Exactly, and I think those are the examples. That is what this new sentiment from Starmer is trying to tackle. I don't think it's a matter of sending people, because like you say, you're sending someone back to torture that if you don't believe them, the consequences are quite grave.
I mean, it's against the international
law. But what I dislike so much about this new kind of approach is, again, it feeds into this fiction that Britain is incredibly generous. What an incredibly generous country we are to asylum seekers and refugees. We are not when you compare us to the rest of Europe. We do not take as many refugees as places like Germany and France. And I think that this is only fueling this Reform UK fiction that there are millions of people piling into this country and milking us dry, which is not true. It's just more right-wing rhetoric to inflame people and their emotions, to think that it's the British people that are coming out worse off. And he actually says something along those lines, which is that this government cannot support the idea that people come across on boats have it better than British citizens. They do not. They don't even have access to the NHS, an asylum seeker coming into this country. We have free healthcare. It's this, again, I understand why Starmer is doing it, because...
And he is right to, because those people who said they've got a cat, I remember that story from a few years ago, and that was their family, and they had a right to a family life. So those things, and that was a true story, by the way, but those things and these judges that don't seem to have the ability for nuance or to understand what's going on.
This is the law, right? There's a problem with the law in the sense it's not the law is the law, and there's not much room for nuance. And I think that is what Starmer's getting at, where it's like, actually, we maybe need a little bit more breathing room to stop people saying, I've got a cat and that's my family, because that's unacceptable.
Clearly not true. Or I can't go back to Brazil because the healthcare is not very good. Exactly.
And I think no matter, and again, this is the Starmer line is, it's not left-wing to support that. It's not left-wing to support a paedophile staying in the UK because he wants better healthcare. And I think everyone is kind of universally agreed on that. But it's kind of similar to the benefits example we were talking about a few minutes ago, where you can find examples like that. But I think broadly they are quite rare. And only because of the toxicity of the debate around immigration in this country are those the cases we talk about. We don't talk about the vast majority of people who are granted asylum in the UK because they are genuine asylum seekers. And they're not people that come across to Britain because they think that the benefit system is better than France. I think this is as much as I understand why Labour need to go down this route, because Reform UK will win the next election on immigration and that would be catastrophic, I don't think they need to go as far as feeding into the Reform UK rhetoric, which is exaggerating the generosity of the UK and the intentions of people who are coming here, because they're not people who are taking the piss. They're genuine people in need. There may be a few individuals who...
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. You've got a lot of people who, for example, are coming across from countries that do not have any right to claim asylum, right? You've got one of the largest numbers of people from Vietnam.
Yes.
That has been one of the largest numbers of people coming across.
Yes.
You've got people coming across from other parts of the world who are not war-torn. There is not an issue with that. You've got people coming across from Albania and things like that. So there are growing numbers, unfortunately, of people who are seeing the numbers coming in and hiding amongst those numbers and making it worse for those genuine claimants. And that is always the issue. But I'm not blind to the fact that there are an awful lot of people who are not welcome here, who don't have any right to claim asylum here. And those rules are there for a reason. You know, we will take you if you are in genuine fear of your life. If you are genuinely, you will die if you stay in your country, come and we will look after you. But if everybody takes the mick out of that, the whole system collapses. And that's what's happening.
Absolutely. And there are appalling networks of people smugglers that do untold harm to people in order to bring them into this country, and they use them to grow drugs and the shadow economy and do illegal activities in the
slavery.
UK, which is appalling. But I think we need to maintain the honesty about the debate, because, Keir Starmer came into government saying we're going to smash the gangs. That is proving impossible, as it was predicted. But just because that hasn't happened in my view, shouldn't justify now switching the focus back onto the people who are asylum seekers. Just because you failed to tackle... we should be talking about these people smuggling gangs. They're horrific criminal networks.
But we should also be talking about the failure of governments across the decade or so, decades now, who have failed to sort the system out, make sure that if you're bringing in 1 million people, there has to be infrastructure to support those people, there has to be the work to support those people, there has to be school places, there has to be all of those things. And every single government has been short-sighted and has not prepared for more people to be in the country, and that's why we're seeing this push-pull over housing, we're seeing the push-pull over seeing a GP, getting your kid into a school. There is that issue, and that is mostly legal migration that they knew that they were bringing into the country. They planned to bring them into the country, but they did not plan the infrastructure around that increase in the numbers coming over.
Yeah, I agree.
So the governments are to blame.
They certainly are, but I think there's multiple other reasons. For example, when it comes to hospital appointments, that's not just immigration; that's an ageing population.
Of course.
And I think this is where the debate becomes unhealthy, because where it becomes dishonest, in my opinion, because it's not a matter of solving this problem and then everyone can see a doctor, everyone can get a house. It's not that. It's just that these are a group of people who come over to the UK and are the easiest, most visible target for people who have spent the last 15 years seeing their living standards decline, having less money in their pocket. It's so easy to look at immigrants and be like, yeah, you see them coming over on boats, it's their fault.
Yeah.
It's a multitude of problems. Immigration, not preparing for the number of people coming into the country is an element, but it's not the answer, which is why I think, the Reform UK party in its entirety and their vitriolic nonsense is so deeply harmful, because it will solve nothing, and it will, you can
also they will not be able to do what they say.
Of course
they're
not.
Going to do.
No, of course not.
Yeah, it's look. If only it could be solved over a newspaper review.
If only.
The Financial Times, just before we go to the break, fabulous picture on the front page there. Who is that couple there?
It's Michelle Boney with Les Dennis, it looks like.
It looks like a fat Les Dennis, yeah. And it's Michelle. It does look so like him.
It does. I mean, it's a shame. Big respect for Les.
Yeah,
that's really unfair on him. It's Michelle Mone's husband who looks like a fat Les Dennis.
He really does. It's extraordinary. If you get a chance to have a look at the photograph at the FT, that of course is the VIP lane. This isn't worrying at all. Home Office in a fresh push for backdoor into Apple user data. So the Home Office has demanded that Apple create a backdoor to users' iCloud storage, or to cloud storage, but said the order applied only to British citizens. That's good then.
That's nice.
Why do they want to have poke around in our data?
Yeah, it's a good question.
It's disgusting.
And Apple have said no, haven't they? Well, they said they can't do that.
Yeah.
That it's encrypted, that there is no kind of key that they can.
But why is the Home Office looking? I mean, this creeping sort of spying on us is absolutely disgusting. And the whole idea of these digital IDs just ties into all of this.
Yeah.
And people say, oh, if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to fear. Who decides what's to fear? Who decides what's to hide?
Exactly. I mean, you hear the echoes of what's happening in America.
Yeah.
The enemy within.
In 1984.
Yes, exactly. You can make an enemy out of anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Very, very quickly. It's very interesting. My eye has been caught by a cuddly avocado.
Yes.
Why do people want to cuddle avocados?
It's replaced Jellycat. I don't know what a Jellycat is.
Oh, the Jellycat toys are quite cute, actually.
Oh.
They're just toys for kids. Everyone from children to kidults. I hate that term, kidult. I'm a kidult. No, you're not. You're an adult. Stop it.
Grow up.
Grow up. Seem to love Jellycats. The plush toy maker says, founded in London by Thomas Gatacre in 1999, the privately owned brand rose 66% to 333 million last year. They're making... I've never looked at an avocado and thought, I want to cuddle that. Have you?
Yeah, this is... well, we've got a mental health crisis, Petrie.
Yeah.
So
who wants to cuddle an avocado? Answers on a postcard, please. I mean, they do look really cute, but I've never looked at an avocado and gone, oh, I wish there was a furry version of that I could cuddle.
Of all the fruits, is it a fruit? Of all the fruits, what would
I cuddle?
Yeah.
I don't think I can say without it sounding really...
Oh dear. Okay, well, we'll move on.
Let's move on to a quick break.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good morning. This is Talk, and it's Petrie, and with me, Cody Darler, comedy writer and host of, what's your podcast called?
The Truth in My Opinion.
The Truth in My Opinion. That is a real escape, isn't it?
Yeah.
A real escape,
Yeah.
that is. Oh, that's just what I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually, I named it after a genuine commenter on one of my TikToks.
Oh, really?
They said, yeah, well, that is the truth in my opinion. And I was like, that is madness.
that is
you
not
said that
what truth
in
is.
seriousness.
Yeah, quite. I love it.
Yeah.
Now, the Daily Telegraph, Badenoch, sorry. I'll rip up laws on net zero. Again, this is playing into what she thinks that people who might support Nigel Farage would go for.
Yes. Yeah, this is what we all want. Screw the environment. I mean, again, it's this idea that net zero is costing us a fortune. I would genuinely be interested, I'm sure someone has done this, but you know, what's quite a common thing that I see online about Reform UK voters is, yes, they all hate immigration, but actually, when you if you asked Reform UK voters what they think about actually no, they probably do say it doesn't exist. They did that at the Reform UK conference.
Yeah, the MAGA crowd under Trump believe that it's a fallacy. Look, what I do believe is a fallacy is the speed that Ed Miliband is trying to make this net zero happen, and that it will make any difference to the world. We already only admit a tiny percentage compared to other countries. Yeah. It's got to be a global effort. Yeah. So the idea that we've got to scrap gas boiler, the next time I need a new boiler, it can't be a gas. But I mean, it's just like that is really expensive, and people can't afford that. Yeah. Getting electric cars by next week, or you're doomed. I think that is an absolute joke. It's got to be, come on, if you want us to do this, we will get there. We're really good actually in this country. But Ed Miliband has taken how many flights since?
Yes. I mean, this is true. I mean, it's the kind of baggage of being a politician, isn't it? And I don't. It's a bit stinky. It doesn't pass the smell test. No. But there is. I
think net zero is a great goal to head for. I just think the timescale is off.
Yes, I am a little bit suspicious of this argument, though, that we make no difference in Britain, and that actually it's the big polluters like China and India and America that, and that is true. They are the big polluters, but exactly
during the Industrial Revolution.
Exactly. So we have to take some kind of moral responsibility and lead by example. But also, the largest producer of solar energy is now China. And America, there's a huge uptake in solar power in America, but Donald Trump, in his latest Big Beautiful Bill, has refused to invest in the infrastructure to transfer the solar electricity onto the grid. So that's an ideological decision he's making. Yeah. But there is a lot of...
California uses a lot of...
California and Texas is the state now that's soon going to overtake California as the sort of kind of solar state. But yeah, China uses a lot of solar power. Yeah, I'm just suspicious of. I know exactly what you mean. We're no longer an industrial state, but I think these things are important, and I think they're important on the world stage to show that it can be done. There's another story, if we just to link it.
Is that the Times?
It may be the Times. Yes, it is the Times.
Yeah, the Times. I just pulled that up actually because I was thinking about that. Britain blows $1 billion on turning off turbines during high winds.
Yes, so this is most interesting, I think, where the focus should be when we talk about net zero, because basically Britain has crumbling infrastructure. I wonder why. Privatisation? Possibly. That we basically are producing a lot of renewable energy, but we don't have the transmission infrastructure, again, to hook that into the national grid. So what the government is having to do is these wind farms are producing this energy that the government has to pay for, but the energy goes nowhere.
Well, the government doesn't pay for it, we pay for it.
Sorry. The taxpayer pays for it, and it goes nowhere. So this ridiculous idea that we scrap net zero, this is part of net zero. We should be investing in our energy infrastructure to stop,
Yeah, but that's that is a sensible thing to do
Yes.
with the money that we're having to pay on all of our energy bills.
Yeah.
Not say you've got to have a heat pump if you're in the 15th floor of a high-rise.
Yes.
You know, that's where the nonsense lies.
Yeah.
The messaging, as ever, is off. If they said, look, we're going to take 60 quid off your energy bill that you have to pay or whatever it is, and we're going to spend it on the infrastructure so we don't have to switch off the turbines when it's windy, great, take my money.
Yeah.
Do it. That is a sensible, and most people would go, yeah, I kind of get that.
Yeah.
What they don't get is this ridiculous heat pump idea, where you have to change all your radiators. It's not just a case of just plonking it down. Everything has to be changed.
I agree.
So that is where that's where it would be sensible.
Yes, but can I ask where the focus is in our media when it comes to net zero? The focus is on exactly what you just said. This idea that the nanny state is telling you to buy an electric car, not true. The nanny state is forcing you to get a heat pump, not true. If we had
But they are going to get rid of gas boilers.
Yes, but I think it's just like immigration. I think there is a sensible conversation to have around net zero and how we reach it, and like you say, that avoids basically alienating people and basically allowing us to focus on the silly things. And it is maybe silly to say you have to get a heat pump, but there is a sensible conversation to be had. It's just people are unwilling to have it.
Yeah.
You know, we've got the front page of the Telegraph here with Badenoch saying, "I'll rep up net zero." This is crazy. And this Times article is saying that so £1 billion is £34 per household this year.
That's a lot of money.
That we paid because we don't have the infrastructure to transfer that energy onto the grid.
And that's mad.
It's crazy.
It is
it's crazy.
Absolutely mad. It's bonkers.
But this discussion is part of net zero. So let's not just throw,
I agree.
not throw the baby out with the bathwater.
But that is a sensible thing to do. I just wanted to talk about this because it's on the front page of the Times. Jane Goodall. Now, that is a name that most people will know, but probably think, why do I know that name?
Yes.
I mean, she is one of the world's greatest environmentalists and animal rights campaigners, and she was made famous for the work that she did with chimpanzees, and she has died at the age of 91. But what an incredible legacy this woman has left behind, and she's in quite a few of the papers. I'm so glad to see that the Times have given her front page.
Yeah, amazing, like I say, an amazing environmentalist. Very important work, and it's sad. It's sad that well, there's a hypocrisy there, isn't there? In the sense that she's on the front page. Yet our discussion about net zero and protecting the environment is so toxic.
Yeah, it is true. But I mean, the work that she did, she was from Hampstead in North London, and carried out a groundbreaking study of chimpanzees. And I still remember the black and white films of her working with these animals. And she stayed working with animals and protecting animals for her entire life. I mean, that is wealth. That's what you take with you. That's what you leave behind, isn't it?
Have you used any of her observations about chimpanzees and applied it to your commentating of politics?
When I talk to you.
Yes,
I mean,
excellent. Yeah. Her research comes in very handy when you talk about Westminster.
I see the similarities. I think it's the ears. Cody, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's always wonderful to see you, Cody Darla. There, do look him up. He's definitely worth the effort. But listen, before we go, talking of animals, if you thought that the Loch Ness Monster didn't exist, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. I mean, that's me. I'm one of those people. The Loch Ness Monster